Welcome to the Jun and Paul SHOW.
June!
Paul!
Finally, we're live again here in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
And we're
Jun and Paul SHOW has gone on the road.
On the road. So right now, we have a special guest.
Yes.
He is an FMA'er.
Yes.
He's only an FMA'er,
Actually,
put it that way.
long time FMA'er.
Long time FMA'er.
Right. From the yesteryears. All right.
Yeah, he's a little bit older than me, right? But he's back then on Dagenberg Academy. But we will introduce.
Hey,
I'm Johnny the Cops. That will get us a lot of views.
I look a lot younger. My name is Larry Lindenman.
Say us something about
my background. So Filipino martial arts.
Filipino martial arts.
So
anything you want, sir.
So yeah, started way back in the '80s. Started training with a buddy of mine, Mike Doff. Very interesting kind of thing is that when we started training, there's no video of any Filipino martial arts.
You weren't
like
allowed to do
zero.
videos.
Nothing. And so when I was training, when I was training with my guy, I never saw it done. It was just me and him. So my representation of Filipino martial arts was totally internal. I could see, because we didn't even have another person training. It was just me and him. So I knew what I was doing, but I had no idea what it looked like from the outside. Wow. So yeah, kind of a different.
Well, before we move on that,
yeah.
We have a question.
Yeah, please.
Okay? You need to be one requirement for our show. Were you ever a champion of anything?
Of anything.
Anything.
Championship.
Champion of anything.
It's just a simple question.
Simple question. Anything. Math, science.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay,
Yeah. There we go.
Champion it is.
Champion it is.
Champion.
He qualifies to one of our requirements.
Almost everybody that we've interviewed has been a champion in something. So we're like, well, you know what? That's going to be
like
our icebreaker.
a regional Chicago Open.
Mine was motorcycles.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
So where in
funny.
Chicago did you start?
So I started actually at Northern Illinois University when I was a college student, and then I had a martial arts background prior to that, and met this guy Mike Doff. Mike trained with Dan Insanto directly, and so what ended up happening was, I trained with Mike. We were training partners, and then we would do the traveling roadshow with Insanto. So we would go wherever he went, any time around the country. We would show up and do a weekend seminar, and we did this over and over and over again. And then we started training at Dagenberg Academy.
Dagenberg, yeah. That's very famous back there.
Yeah, very famous. Heavy emphasis on Filipino martial arts and JKD.
And
this is my
three.
homeless dad.
Yeah, exactly. Homeless
Welcome
dad
to
who
the
finds
interview.
t-shirts.
Welcome to the
Exactly.
interview here.
You mean Chris? Drive back?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yep.
Thank you for interrupting me.
Yes.
Homeless person.
Homeless person.
So anyways, back to what was I saying? I totally forgot.
You went to Dagenberg Academy?
Went to Dagenberg Academy. I taught a class. I taught a Filipino Kali class, a John Fine class there.
Wow.
For many years. Had a really good group, and one of the guys in my group, Ron Blicki. You guys know him.
Yep.
So Ron started out, and I started out with me, and then he started to do if you guys ever saw the show Kung Fu.
Correct.
He did that to me.
Yeah.
He's like, "Could I train privately with you?" And I hated training privately. I hated it because I teach somebody something, they wouldn't do any work on it, and then the next week they have to teach them again, and they wouldn't do any work on it, so I kind of stopped private students. So I said, "No, I'm not going to teach." And he goes.
So at the present time, where are you at now on martial arts?
Yeah, so
shooting. We're in a shooting event, so you got to talk about that a little bit.
So the transition occurred really. I started to shoot when I was in the '80s, just like casual. Learn from some people. Really not a solid background in shooting, and so I was considering myself a martial artist. And I was a hospital administrator actually, and I'm like, this is not working for me. And all I'm doing is mapping out martial arts stuff while I'm in the hospital, and getting this close to being fired because I'm mapping out, thinking about Kali. I'm not thinking about actual work. And so I decided that, hey man, maybe I should move into police work. And so my wife's friend, her husband was a state trooper, and I talked to him a little bit, and so I'm like, yeah, I'll apply. And luckily, you know, I think I applied in October, and I was in the academy in January. And it was very, very rare. I hit the timing right, and you know.
Nice.
And so I went from, you know, it was funny because in the academy, there were some people that I trained, you know, and some troopers who were in the DT program who I trained. So I kind of got this little bit of a reputation because of, you know, having some training. So it was funny because
badass training.
and then I did they had a kicking shield, and we were doing something. I ended up breaking a guy's ribs through the kicking shield. And but what that did though,
we can always demo.
The thing that did for me though is not to say that what it did was that when I had to go through scenarios, they just gave up right away. They were just like, they could have been bad, but they never gave me resistance. Yep. So I'm like, oh, I passed this real well. So I ended up helping reconstruct a defensive tactics program for the Illinois State Police. Completely rewrote it. But I started getting in altercations, and I started to find that some of what I learned didn't apply in the real world.
Correct.
And I never was able to bridge the gap in training wise with firearms and weapons. So how does that all fit together? How do I I transition from a weapon to a firearm? How do I transition from firearm to weapon? You know, how do I transition from some sort of
an aggression to
And how did you?
Well, where that came into is I started to think about ways to kind of integrate. But the thing that crystallized it was really ShivWorks and Craig Douglas. Yes. And so you know, Craig had a very similar background to me. He was Filipino martial artist as well.
Yes.
And Cecil, Filipino martial arts.
Correct.
Chris Fry, Filipino martial arts. We all started there because we were all looking for something different. We were looking for something cutting edge, something that actually solved problems. And at the time, you know, Filipino martial arts were the answer. I'm not saying it's not now. I'm saying it was that answer.
There was a lot of drills that was never being explained how to apply it in real life.
Right, and the drills were great, but there was never working against unscripted pressure.
Yes, correct.
So, and one of the things we found was that, you know, and the same thing with shooting, is that the real fight is getting the gun out and oriented to the
correct.
The real fight is getting the knife out. Once you get the knife out, you know, that knife fight becomes a heck of a lot easier. But
once the weapon's out,
right. But we find, and so what did we learn when we started Filipino martial arts? We learned you already had the knife out.
You already had the knife out.
Yeah, it was already out.
It's already out.
And so I could do all this stuff. Knife's already out. Awesome. But what's the problem? Is that the reality is that I don't know. You know, I'm in an initiative deficit. The initiative deficit is that if somebody's going to attack me, they're not going to go, hey, you know what? We're going to have a knife fight.
Correct.
Yeah, let's go. The initiative deficit is the guy going, hey man, I really like your shirt. Vortex, are you a shooter? Cool, wham! And so now we're in an initiative deficit. Yes. And now if I want to deploy that blade, I got to deploy it under pressure. And so Craig had the answer to what do I do when I have that pressure when I'm in an initiative deficit.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Nice.
And getting we were talking about blades, and also your program with Craig also employs your primary weapon, which is the gun.
The gun, yeah, exactly. So, and you make the decision very good.
Correct. And a lot of martial arts out there, or programs, they like what you said, they employ the tools that are already out there.
Yeah.
But accessing it or blocking them so your enemy can't get to it 100%. Is very important.
Yep.
Yeah. So, any advice to any new martial artists or new shooters? What is maybe one or two advice that you can give?
Quick tidbit.
Quick tidbit is pressure test your material and whatever equipment you carry. Pressure test.
One negative thing that you don't ever do.
One negative thing that I don't do.
You'll say don't do that.
Or advice.
Your advice.
Not to
Let's
do.
say,
we're talking about self-defense, right? Because I got a lot of other shit.
Just one.
All right. So don't text on your phone in transitional areas.
Yes. That's
actually very good.
That was actually in the lesson already.
Away students maybe get a hold of you, or maybe
people interested to find out more about you and train with you.
So,
train with you.
Cool. look up ShivWorks. Just Google ShivWorks. I'm point-driven training. If you send me something on point-driven training, I will probably not see it. But I'm on social media. I don't look at. I don't engage in Facebook. But I have a Facebook. You can friend me.
Yes.
I don't engage in
We're
Instagram.
the homeless. He's always on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. I don't engage in Instagram, but I do have an Instagram under Point Driven Training.
All right,
So
all right.
you might want to friend me, but if I don't friend you back, not an insult. I just didn't see it.
All right,
Very
good.
cool.
All right, there you go.
Awesome,
Appreciate
bro.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate
Appreciate it earlier too.
And there goes the Jun
All
and
right.
Paul show, our
All right,
first
everybody.
interview. We got more coming.
and it's exiting
hopefully
right.
next time we got sticks coming out. Maybe tomorrow.
Or maybe some Shiv material stuff.
Good
All right.
job. Peace out.
Later.